And we've come to the end of the book of Acts and our 51st book of the Bible. You know how I feel at these end stages. It's always like, thank you, Jesus, for the grace and the strength. So let's just dive in. For this one, I just, highlighted the points that I had learned from. I mean, it was obviously very heavy. I don't know about you, like the end seemed just very weighty for me. So on Paul's voyage to Rome, he was accompanied by some of his friends, including Luke. So Luke was the writer of, obviously he's the writer of Acts, but he's also the narrator of this part of the story. Now, the journey as I read through it just reminded me of something that could typically be someone's life journey, right? There were moments of joy, relief, calmness, and then sudden storms, that came and just disrupted everything and caused seemingly irreplaceable damage, and things just seemed, some things that happened there, especially to the ship and all, seemed like unfixable. But through it all, God's promise of salvation and preservation still stood. Like it just, I don't know if the whole story in my mind was just like a metaphor for someone's life, maybe my life. So I also just noted that on the journey, Paul and his passengers, who were about 300 apparently on board that ship, experienced rough weather and had to reroute several times, and then sail close to the shore at some point, and had to navigate really treacherous waters because of the weather and the time of year of the travel. Again, for me, I felt like it was like a metaphor for life. There are many times that you face storms and you have to reroute, renavigate, swim close to a shore, and what was the other one? Navigate treacherous waters because of weather and time of year. So what struck out to me for this was that sometimes we'll go through these seasons of storms, but remember it says it was the time of the year of their travel. So it's just a season and a timing thing. Because like Paul said, it was winter and he had told them to, chill. But they were like, oh no, in a hurry to go, the sailors. If it was another time, the sea would have been calm and they would have probably gotten to Rome in good time, in good conditions, no bad weather, but that didn't happen. So yeah, lesson. So through the storm, there was a lot of loss aboard the ship, mostly because they didn't listen to Paul's initial warning before they set sail at Fair Haven. Nevertheless, an angel appeared to Paul and assured him that they would be spared, they will be that God's hand was upon him, and by extension the people around him will be preserved as well. If you've watched these stories long enough, you know how I love a blessing by association story, and this was it again, because these people did not have any business being preserved because they didn't listen to him, and besides he was a prisoner. They were taking him to prison, so they could have all drowned and Paul would have been saved. But blessing by association, I love it. So there's been discoveries, right? So this is a bit of a history lesson because I found the whole thing kind of interesting. And some of the links from the Bible Recap podcast, which, as you know, I also listen to, to get my learnings as well. Like I say, I'm no Bible scholar. It set me on some researching path. So even after reading some of the links there, I went to find out. And so there have been discoveries and some uncovering of anchors on the coast of Malta, 4 anchors, which could be the anchors of the shipwreck that was described in chapter 27. In fact, I'm convinced that they are. And then there's a St. Paul's Bay exists in Malta, and there's also something called the Shipwreck Cathedral, which was set up there. But more investigations show that the site of that shipwreck wasn't that St. Paul's Bay. So they've named it after Paul, built a cathedral, but it from all indications, it seemed, or more investigations showed that this shipwreck probably happened in a place called Moxna. Anyway, the cathedral is there, the bay is named, moving on. I found out that the people of Malta were nice, to Paul and the people. And I believe that was favor from God. And the whole business of this viper and the snake and the fire, I feel like was God just highlighting Paul or spotlighting Paul to the people, right? And it was obvious from the reception and the treatment of Paul when they landed in Rome that God's will for him was God's will for him that he had told him to witness was already set in motion just by the things that he met. He was allowed to live by himself with a guard, and the people welcomed him favorably. And he got an opportunity to preach to them and correct some misconceptions about Christianity, which was spreading at the time. And some believed, some didn't. That was not Paul's business. His own was to go and spread the good news, and God was the one who was working on their heart. Now, here's what I learned about God from these chapters. God extends salvation. Extends salvation. How? He reaches across enemy lines and shows mercies to those that may not know him, and gives them an opportunity to know him. In 28:28, which says, therefore, I want you to know that God's salvation has been sent to the Gentiles, and they will listen. Paul was letting the Jews know that. Obviously, this got some of the Jews mad and, whatever. But that didn't change anything about God's plan. He was extending his salvation to the Gentiles, and that's just so amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. We've come to the end of the 51st book of the Bible. Yay, yay. And then tomorrow we'll go into some of the letters of Paul. So Colossians and the letter to Philemon tomorrow. Looking forward to spending time with you here as always. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.